in Kentucky, voters who wanted to cast their ballot in the primaries did find themselves experiencing difficulty because polling places were shut down. There were issues with mail-in ballots. And then this video from Louisville, Kentucky emerged that I want to show you. Let's take a look. So that video, while pretty devastating because it shows how difficult it was for some people to vote in Kentucky, it does give me a lot of hope because those are incredibly enthusiastic voters who are not going to be stopped from casting their ballots. And so eventually they were able to get the doors open so they can enter the building and vote. Let's take a quick look at that.
Gotta be in line. Keep going.
So John, as you can see, some people were able to get in, but there was a lot of difficulty voting because in Louisville, there was literally one physical in-person voting location people can go to. And officials in Kentucky argued that they did this. They shut down the vast majority of voting locations in Kentucky in response to COVID. But I don't know, it kind of sounds like a bad idea to cram a bunch of people into one area to vote. But I mean, again, it's a negative story. There's no question about it. But the one positive that I'm trying to take away from it is just how these voters are undeterred. They want to go there. They want to vote. They're going to do what they can to make it happen.
Yeah, that is the silver lining. But can I just say how sick I am of voter suppression related silver linings? Like the stories every election that, in Cleveland, there are people who waited 8 hours. Think about the devotion. No, I don't want them to be devoted. I want it to be as casual as getting a Big Mac. I want you to be able to walk in and do it quickly if you want to. You already have a tough life. Everyone does. Being engaged even for 5 consecutive minutes in politics is tough. I don't want the voting process to be grueling and to be so long. The end of that video where they're like, you can make it, you can make it. That's supposed to be the end of a marathon, not the rush to exercise your democratic rights. And the fact that it happens election after election after election, and that the Democratic Party lets it happen, and that the media lets it happen, and that thinking that democracy would be a good thing has become an incredibly partisan position with massive disagreement on one side, and that one party being so vigorously and ceaselessly against democracy doesn't hurt them. They pay no electoral price, no public relations price. The Republicans can shred voting rights everywhere for explicitly racist reasons, and it doesn't hurt them. And that's a failure for America, but specifically a massive failure of the Democratic Party and the media that they allow it to go on. And they enter into every election knowing what's gonna happen. None of this is a surprise. It honestly feels a little bit like body cameras. It's like we have the footage and it doesn't matter. And that is utterly depressing.
It is depressing. And just to give you a little more context into the videos that we just showed you. So basically people were waiting in outrageously long lines in order to vote. And then while people were still waiting in line, the polling location closed at 6 p.m. which is why people were banging on the doors, demanding that they be let in. If you see people who have been waiting in line for literally hours, and you decide that you're just gonna shut down the polling place at 6 p.m., yeah, you should be met with that type of resistance and with that type of rage. And I just wanna bring up something that's been frustrating to say the least. When it comes to the squirrel that Americans are directed toward, while actual democracy, our democratic process is being threatened, it's being violated. I don't care to engage in a debate about the flag and whether or not people should be allowed to burn it. We've already been over this, okay? I don't go around burning the flag, but people have a First Amendment right to do it, okay? If you are upset at people burning the American flag because you feel that that is some sort of attack on our democracy, or it's an attack on the brave men and women who fight for our freedom and our democracy, okay, stop paying attention to the squirrel for a minute, because at the end of the day, it's an inanimate object, okay? It's a symbol. I get that the symbol means a lot to a lot of people, but our democracy is being violated right now by voter suppression. And it happens election after election after election. What good is the flag if it represents nothing? If it represents a country that doesn't even allow its own citizens to vote, to go out there and cast their ballot? I mean, it's not a democracy if people aren't able to vote, right? And so we're seeing this become more and more of an issue. The voter suppression is becoming more and more of an issue. And you're right, John. I mean, I'm tired of trying to focus on silver linings so I don't lose my mind. But that's what we've been minimized to, because we don't have lawmakers who are fighting back aggressively enough against the voter suppression. And so, look, we've been talking about Donald Trump fear-mongering about mail-in voting, arguing that the election is rigged, all this nonsense, all these little tricks he's trying to pull out of his bag, right? So what are Democrats doing to prepare for that? Are they preparing for it? I wanna know. Because we've had months to prepare for coronavirus and how it would impact primary elections. And it's very clear that there have not been safeguards put in place to ensure that everyone who wants to vote would have the ability to vote. Anyway, but just quick good news related to last night. So there were some important races where progressives were battling against incumbent Democrats. So I want to give you an update on Kentucky. So establishment Democrats are not in a good place right now. Although the race has not been called yet due to the high volume of mail-in ballots that have not been counted yet. Amy McGrath in Kentucky is battling a progressive Charles Booker for the Senate seat, Mitch McConnell's Senate seat to be specific. And so far we don't know for sure who's gonna win. A lot of these mail-in ballots are coming from areas that are likely to vote for Charles Booker. But as it stands today, we have, let's see. Let me give you the details. So many counties, including Jefferson, the state's largest, faced piles of mail-in ballots and reported no results. The Associated Press doesn't expect to call the McGrath-Booker race until June 30th, when Kentucky plans to release additional tallies. Just want to note that currently McGrath is at 44% and Booker is at 37.6%. McGrath has also spent $16 million in ads compared to Booker's $2 million. So considering how much of an advantage she had there, it is kind of miraculous to see how well Booker is doing as it stands today. But we'll give you guys the updates as we receive them. And then finally, the biggest news for the primary elections last night was Jamal Bowman. So the AP is refusing to call that election. However, just keep in mind that the incumbent Democrat, Eliot Engel, is at 34.9%, and Jamal Bowman has a giant lead at 61.8%. So some good news.
It is. That's great news. Mondaire Jones, great news. And there were some other good progressives too that weren't quite as high profile that won some of these races. It's not considered as high profile as with Jamal Bowman because, of course, taking down an incumbent like Eliot Engel that had like the full fury of the Democratic establishment behind it. That's the most impressive. The thing that worries me the most isn't necessarily the result that will come out of Kentucky. No matter what, even if Charles Booker comes up short and it still looks like he could potentially win, it was an amazing showing and certainly bodes well for future runs that he'll engage in. It's that so little additional votes have come in since last night. Like I'm looking and nothing from Louisville is registering on any of the sites that I'm seeing. And the thing is, structurally, I don't know of any reason that counting these early and absentee votes would be faster in the general election than it would in these primaries, which means we're used to knowing on election night who won the presidency. But it's looking like we're probably not going to know. And do you really want to go to sleep that night not knowing if Trump won re-election?
I probably won't, but I mean, that's not rare these days, so.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.